It was the summer of 1977. The Girl Scouts of Tulsa-based Magic Empire Council were having their annual 2-week summer camp at Camp Scott in Meigs County, Oklahoma. The camp had been operating for 49 years, and it was something that the Girl Scouts looked forward to every year. On June 12, 1977, 140 Girl Scouts left the Magic Empire Council building in Tulsa, heading to Camp Scott, which was 50 miles away. Among the girls was Lori Farmer, age 8, Michelle Gus, age 9, and Doris Milner, age 10. It was the first time going to the camp for all 3 of the girls, so they were excited and a bit nervous. Doris Milner, being the one of few African American members, was said to have been noticeably nervous and already homesick, stated one of the teenage counselors. So the counselor made it her mission to remain close to Doris and help her to feel comfortable and welcome. When arriving to the camp, the children spilled out of the buses with excitement as the counselors assisted the girls in getting to their proper tents that they would be living in for the next 2 weeks. The teenage counselor that was with Doris helped her to her tent, about 12 by 14 feet, with canvas sides that could be rolled up, sat on a wooden platform, and held 4 cots for sleeping. The 3 girls were located in the tent in the Kiowa unit, which was one of the more secluded tents. Not long after reaching the tent and getting settled, Doris, Michelle, and Lori appeared to have become quick friends, although they had not known each other prior. And this made the counselor that was guiding Doris very happy to see. The campers and the counselors did a few little fun activities that day, including singing songs around the campfire and a little horse playing. Not long after, they all decided that it was time for lights out, and the campers and counselors went to their beds for the evening. One thing that the campers kept in mind was that the campsite was very dark, which was one of the things that the counselors felt added a magical charm to the camp. Not long after the camp had gone to bed, there were many different things that were heard in the middle of the night. Sometime after midnight, the counselor Carla Willett, she was awakened by a strange loud noise that sounded like a bullfrog. After alerting another counselor who didn't hear the same noise, she went back to sleep. But this would not be the last strange thing that happened that night. At 2 a.m., the counselors heard the voices of some of the girls in one of the tents awaken. They went to tell them to go to sleep, when they were told by some of the campers that there was a man that was looking in the tent at one point. And they also saw the man when they were trying to go to the bathroom. But the counselors were oddly not alarmed and sent the girls back to bed without checking on the other campers. The next morning, Counselor Carla Willett woke up to start her day. She was on her way to the showers when she discovered the body of Doris Milner under one of the large trees. She also discovered both Michelle and Lori next to her, still zipped in their sleeping bags. All 3 girls had been bound and gagged with electrical tape, sexually molested, and 2 of them had been killed by blunt force trauma to the head and 1 by strangulation. In the Tulsa area nearby, the townspeople were getting their day started when the horrific tragedy was reported on the news that 3 Girl Scouts had been murdered. As the news spread throughout the town, the parents and families of the Girl Scouts rushed and gathered in the council building after getting word that the buses were bringing the girls back, less than 24 hours from the time that they were dropped off. After the parents retrieved their children, who didn't know at first what happened, the counselors stayed back to assist the authorities with information. Although the tragedy was something no one ever saw coming, there were many different strange things that happened prior to the girls coming to the camp. 2 months prior, the counselors had an on-site training at the camp. One of the counselors went back to her tent to find that it had been ransacked. But the strangest thing was that she discovered that her donuts were missing, but there was a handwritten note that was left in the box. In the note, it was vowed that the person writing the note would murder 3 campers. But the note was taken as a joke, and it was thrown away. Another strange thing was there were Girl Scouts that were reported to have stated that the night that the girls were murdered, they heard what sounded like screaming in the distance. It was believed that they went and told their counselor, but it was dismissed and they were told to not worry about it. When the investigation was conducted, Mays County Sheriff Pete Weaver was at the head of the investigation. There was blood and a bloody footprint that was discovered in the tent, which was indication that the attack started in the tent and the girls were eventually dragged outside. There was also duct tape and a long strand of black hair that was found. The first suspect of the murders was a man named Jack Schroff, who owned a ranch near the campsite. When he was being investigated, they found duct tape and rope that matched what was used on the girls, but it was thought that these things were stolen from him. He was ruled out when he took a polygraph test and passed. The next suspect was a man named Gene Leroy Hart, who was a convicted felon that had recently escaped prison. He was on the run when the murders took place, and no one knew where he was. Days after the murders, there was a cave that was discovered not far from the campsite by hunters. There were a few things that were in the cave indicating that someone had been living in there. There were photographs that was said to have belonged to Hart when he was in prison. But the strangest thing that the hunters found was a message scratched into the rocks in the cave, stating, quote, June 17th, 1977. The real killer was here. Bye-bye, fools. End quote. Hart was part of the Native American community, and he was very beloved and very protected. But the police obtained information from an informant stating that Hart had been staying with another Cherokee man, living in Cookson Hills. The police went to the home and trapped him inside. They questioned him about the murders, and he replied, quote, You'll never pin it on me, end quote. Things became complicated when the investigators searched the home, where they said they didn't find anything the first time. But the home was searched a second time, and there were things that were found that were said to have gone missing from the counselors. After this, it was believed by Hart and his supporters that the items had been planted in the home by the police. During Hart's trial, there were many different things that deemed him innocent, such as there being a bloody fingerprint on a flashlight found in the tent. But it wasn't a match with Hart. Also, the footprint that was found was too small to be Hart's. And the strand of hair was similar to Hart's hair, but it was not proven to be his. Hart was found not guilty due to the fact that there was not enough evidence to convict him. Even after the trial, there were still many people that believed that Hart murdered the girls, but didn't act alone. As time went by, the parents of Lori Farmer and Doris Milner filed a $5 million lawsuit against Magic Empire Council, accusing them of negligence, which resulted in the deaths of their daughters. They argued that they found a threatening letter and it should have been further investigated, and that they knew ahead of time that their children were possibly unsafe going in. But the judge ruled that the death of the girls was not due to negligence. In 2008, bodily fluids from inside the tent were put forward for DNA testing, with more advanced forensic technology analysts. But no answers came of this, due to the deterioration of the samples being too great. To this day, the case remains unsolved, but there has been a $30,000 reward raised locally last year by Mays County Sheriff Mike Reed, with hopes that, with today's advanced DNA testing, that they will one day soon find out what happened on that heartbreaking morning no one will ever forget. Also, the day that the bodies were discovered, Camp Scott officially closed and never reopened.